Hey everybody, Rook here, helping you climb your way to victory in the new level 81 dungeon coming in Final Fantasy XIV's next expansion, Endwalker. Obviously, all of this footage is subject to change, like everything else from the media tour, and you won't be able to play this dungeon until November, but it's still good to take a look at the collection of abilities on display as we look ahead to what the expansion might have in store. You'll also see the name of the dungeon and the bosses themselves in this video, so if you want absolutely zero spoilers whatsoever, head out now and check out one of my other media tour videos instead. No spoilers, fam? You gone? Alright, straight from Final Fantasy IV itself, our new dungeon is the Tower of Zot. We'll only be focusing the bosses in this guide, as most of the trash mobs are fairly straightforward. I'll also only be giving the major mechanics in each fight to give you the overall gist of what to expect. Let's get started! Our first sister is Minduruva, previously called Mindy from Final Fantasy IV. The opening set of abilities she uses are the foundations of everything else she'll do in the fight. Manusia Bio is a tank buster, showing off the new official tank buster telegraph which has been implemented into the game. We've seen it in a few fights before, but they've officially made it something that will telegraph tank busters from here on out, showing up as several rotating red rings around the tank with a big ol' honkin' arrow overhead. She'll cast Manusia Blizzard 3 next, creating a pinwheel of ice slices radiating out from her. Step into the empty spaces between them to avoid. Manusia Fire 3 will be a donut attack, creating a safe space around and under the boss. Getting close. After that, Manusia Thunder 3 will do a string of small lightning AoEs that will travel out from their cast point and move across the arena. As opposed to just plain Manusia Bio, Manusia Bio 3, the third, will be a half-arena cleave originating from Minduruva. If you stand near her, you can safely move to either side to avoid it. After this, Minduruva will cast Transmute. She'll put the magic shown in the cast into a bubble that will slowly move across the arena. Watch for the element that goes into it to see what will be cast when it eventually arrives on the far side at its destination point. While the orb travels across the arena, she'll do another elemental attack at random, so move near her but be prepared to run wherever you need to get to a safe spot. We'll start to see repeats of her abilities, but for the sake of this being a sneak peek preview of the dungeon, we won't get into every single iteration, so just keep an eye out or refer back if you're curious about what something we've already explained does. The next unique mechanic is Drupad, which applies 3 uncleansable dots to different party members in succession. The first will apply burns to a target, followed by frostbite, followed by electrocution. These do not appear to stack on one individual, but rather get placed, each one after another, on different party members. They do pretty decent damage over time, so I would definitely be careful to heal through it and/or help counteract it with any heal over time you might have. With the second transmute, she'll do 2 transmutations back to back. So again, watch for the elements put into the orbs. The one that arrives first will detonate first. During this, she'll do another random elemental attack, and this does include Bio 3, so be prepared to run. These will continue to repeat, going to a 3rd transmutation, a 4th transmutation, and at least what we saw, a 5th transmutation. The mechanics are fundamentally the same, so keep an eye out and learn the elements because it'll be important later down the road. The second sister is Sanduruva. Much like her sister, her opening mechanics will introduce the fundamentals of her fight. Isitva Siddhi is a tank buster. Cooldown and heal, you know the drill. Her next attack, Prapti Siddhi, is a line attack that targets one party member at a time. The first time around you can just get away with sort of moving out of it, but later in the fight you'll need to make sure that these aren't overlapped so that nobody gets hit twice. Spread out around the boss so that each person takes 1 hit. Manusia Berserk will create roiling orbs of energy around the arena. The next ability, Explosive Force, causes each of these to drop a massive AoE puddle underneath it. Before that happens, move to the gap in the orbs and hug as close to the wall as possible between the 2 nearest ones. Getting hit by the orb inflicts Manusia Berserk on players, causing you to go absolutely buck wild and move within range of her to strike her with auto attacks. Immediately after bringing the full might of your auto attacks to bear, she'll cast Prakamya Siddhi, which is an AoE spear attack based around her that those inflicted by Manusia Berserk will get cleaved by, rescue members out, or heal through if any allies are caught in the attack. Manusia Stop is time magic that causes the effect Manusia Stop to be applied to each player. They might also make you loudly go, "Manusia, girl, stop!" I'm sorry, we're being serious. These each have a different duration and switch to temporal displacement when the timer runs out, making it so each player is frozen in place and can't move out of her line-targeted spear strikes from the beginning of the fight. When she casts Manusia Confuse, you'll play a fun game of I Spy. This will apply the effect Manusia Confuse to each party member, making the red orbs appear as clones of Sandaruva rather than their own true form. The non-moving clone will be the empty spot of safety. Run through and behind her to the same safe spot as you did earlier with the red orbs. Like last time, getting hit by the orbs will make you go buck wild, and then she'll recast Prakamya Sidhi, the point-blank AoE underneath her, cleaving all of you, so don't do that. And then the whole fight, just rinse and repeat. It does the same thing. And last but not least, we have Cindy, who I can't call that because that's my mom's name, and it'll be real weird. So Cinderuva is the last and final boss. My mother is the last and final boss of the Tower of Zot. And we're back to serious time. The opening ability will be Samsara, which is in a size that didn't last long. It appears to be in a size, dealing arena-wide damage, though it doesn't seem to heal her. The Mega Sisters will then reconvene to defend the tower, using all of their previous abilities and several new ones. Throughout all of this, the sisters seem to randomly target players with basic elemental attacks, so keep an eye on health overall, especially in the high mobility sections. Possibly the most iconic ability these three have from their history in Final Fantasy is used right off the bat: Delta Attack. The three will stand in the middle and cast a series of abilities. Cinderuva casts Manusia Reflect, causing any and all spells sent to her to reflect towards the party. Mindaruva casts Delta Attack, a magical attack that she directs at Cindy, which is then reflected onto the party. This will be one of Mindy's elemental magics and always follows the same pattern, just now on a much larger scale. Sandaruva will cast Manusia Faith, which, according to previous uses of this skill in Final Fantasy, boosts magic damage of the sisters and makes all of this hurt so much more. The first pattern of Delta Attack will be called out by Mindaruva, and will begin with Insatiable Flame. Almost immediately, Mindaruva's Fire 3 will happen in the center of the arena, so you'll need to quickly move in. After that, Sandaruva's line attacks will bisect the arena, so you'll need to move out of center. Because once wasn't enough, Mindaruva will then use Fire 3 again, this time centered around her, so you'll need to hurry over to her side and get within the donut beneath her. Lastly, but not leastly, a bunch of fire AoE puddles will spawn underneath each player. You'll need to move away from one another to spread them out across the arena. In the break between the Delta attacks, keeping an eye on the 3 enemy list will help more than just targeting one of them. Mindaruva will cast Drupad, the elemental dots that will appear on 3 players. Sandaruva will cast Isitva Siddhi, the tank buster, which will target the tank. Various other small-scale attacks will eat away at health, so take care of yourselves, don't make your healers cry. Following that, another Delta attack will fire off, this time though heralded by the words, Thunderous Tempest. Like in Mindaruva's fight, Thunder AoEs will travel in a line across the arena. However, additional large circle AoEs will now spawn at random. During this, Sandaruva's influence will cause straight-line lightning attacks to sweep across the arena. Moving out to the edges makes it easiest to avoid most of the lightning clutter in the center of the arena. However, immediately after there will be a stack marker, so it might be best to move vaguely together and then come into the center at the end to absorb the damage. Another phase of the sisters doing various attacks will follow, bringing us to the last Delta cast, which is heralded by the words Glacial Ice. Cold ice pizza will radiate out from each of them, like the pinwheels, but just single slices. During this, proximity-based pulsing damage markers will appear on one side of the arena, think meteor markers. Narrow line attacks will also stripe across the arena, moving all one direction and then back the other direction in succession. Avoid everything like your life depends on it, because it probably does. At the very end, assuming you haven't all been turned into popsicles, there will be a second proximity AoE, which you will need to again move away from. This will send the group back into another individual phase, and from then on out, any and all successive Delta attacks will simply repeat the pattern, starting with fire, lightning, then ice. Based off of Final Fantasy IV's precedents, my mom was the one we tried to take down first. Cinderufa was able in that game to resurrect her other sisters, though we didn't actually put that to the test during the time that we had with the media tour. It seems as though the sisters get easier to take down with each one of them that falls. We downed Cinderuva first, then Minderuva, and then Sanderuva. When one goes down, they stop doing Delta attacks, although various mechanics that have been featured in their previous fights will make a return. I was overall pretty impressed by the layering of the Mega Sister skills, and the last fight really made good use of my healing kit when we went into it sight unseen. Granted, some of that could have been the terrible lag we were dealing with, but honestly, overall it felt like my kit and a lot of our kits were being put to good use, which was kind of unusual for a level 81 dungeon. The hinted at lore and artistic inspirations within this dungeon were also really great to dive into, which I actually broke down in more detail in my separate Tower of Zot lore tour, so go check that out if you haven't yet on YouTube. Thank you again so much to Square Enix for allowing me to run through this new dungeon, and sorry for the terrible jokes, but I also regret nothing. The narrative, artistic, and mechanical details in dungeons are honestly some of my favorite things in the game, so I had a blast getting to play this one, and shout out to my group, especially Jahara and Chili, who ran this for the first time with me because it was absolute hilarious chaos. If you're interested in lore, give my old Charlie and Garlemald and Thavnair tour videos a watch. You can also see a preview of our new relic sets and 10 of our upcoming jobs on my 2021 Media Tour playlist. And be sure to play the new dungeon for yourself when Final Fantasy XIV's expansion Endwalker releases, coming November 23rd, 2021, with early access starting November 19th.